Picture this. You just stepped in your own microgreen farm and every inch of it is perfectly planted. Rows of vibrant green stretching under soft light in a space that is just right. This is where your hobby scales up into a thriving business. Welcome to the Microgreen Thumbcast. Today, we're going to zoom in on the expansion and space and gear to make that next big move to get you going. Whether you're planning small scaling up, or a large commercial leap like we did, it all starts with the space you grow in and the equipment that you use. So let's get into how to make your dream space a reality. And let's welcome in my co-host, as always, Andy. Andy, how you doing today?
Good. It's been a good week. A couple more podcast upgrades, so I'm excited.
Yes.
Just making sure they all work tonight. So far, so good.
So far, so good. Yes, for sure. So you started growing and maybe selling a bit, and you're just looking around and thinking that you can add 2, 3, 6 more racks. This is what we did. We started planning out, like, where can we fit these racks? How can we do this? And discuss the importance of well thought out space aligns with your business goals and production needs. I'm sure, Andy, when you started scaling up, you kind of took a look back and like, where can you go? I know you moved spaces and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we've moved 3 times and hopefully 4 times by the end of next month or the month after that, or the month after that. All depends on how it plays out. But I mean, I just shared something in my Facebook group. I think it was yesterday or today, when I had a picture that we had posted 3 years ago where we had 2 racks and that was it. So it's kind of neat to look back. And that's why I always do in the group as well, the monthly, farm, post old pictures of your farms. You can kind of see where you used to be, that way you're proactively taking pictures and keeping, kind of a visual log of where you've been. It's important to look back and to see how far you've come.
Yeah, sometimes we forget like where we came from and how soon it's been since you've moved up in that. So taking the pictures and that Throwback Thursday thing is awesome to look at other people's stuff and where you were at 1, 2, 3 years ago. And you never thought you would be here, but it's here. And that's by careful planning and planning stuff out. When we decided to go adding actual racks instead of the ones that we got out of the restaurant, okay, now where are we placing these? And like, we got this much room to the wall, so we can fit another 3-foot rack in there, or do we just want to go ahead and go to the 4-foot racks and just have an extra 2-foot space? We want to put a 2-foot rack there. What do we want to do? I remember them discussions. It was interesting because we were fitting it into a dining room area, so you had to work around confinements of a house and spaces where walkways were at and walls were coming in and everything else. And then moving stuff to the garage and how are we going to plan that out? And then it got very tight in the garage, in the grow space, everywhere. And that's when we started making sure we were looking at, we already kind of were looking at the commercial space, but we really had to look at commercial space at that point because we just had no more room to grow. So we needed more space so we could grow. So that's how we decided here. But everything was carefully planned out where we were putting stuff. And when you're in a small space, you kind of really got to carefully plan out, even more so, where you're putting everything else. Even when you're in a commercial space, I'm sure, Andy, you've come across this and changed a lot as well. In a commercial space, it's very vital of where you're going to put stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, we every single time when we go and look at a new space, we always do a drawing essentially after the fact. I measure everything out, and if you're going to go look at a space, make sure you get measurements. If you go home without measurements, you wasted your time because ultimately you need to be able to draw out and lay out and figure out where things are and make note of where the outlets are. I usually take tons of pictures. I take video of the whole entire place, so I've got 360-degree video of the whole space because ultimately, if you say, oh, well, that big long wall is where I'm going to put all my racks. And then you come back in, 2 months later and you get started and you realize that whole wall doesn't have one single outlet, or
Not good.
something like that. I mean, it's, you realize really quickly how few outlets you have when you move into a new space or even start up a new space, because I mean, we were in the same boat when we were in our dining room. We only had a couple outlets in there and I'm pretty sure they were all running on the same circuit, so you can only go so far. But when I got down into our basement and we had a couple dedicated circuits down there, so it bought us a little more time. But I mean, at the place that we're moving into, hopefully in the next couple of months, I think we've got 22 dedicated outlets that we're going to have installed just so we have, massive amount of expansion capability, but just stuff you have to think about, because I remember at one point in my group, somebody posted a picture about a layout that they had drawn out for a space they were trying to set up. And, it was great that they did that because we were able to give them a lot of feedback. Joe was really great with that, on different possibilities and kind of your workflow. You really have to think through, from start to finish, what makes it easy for you to move through the farm space. So definitely layout is super, super important.
Yep. Layout's definitely important. We've actually have moved 3 times of stuff that we got over here, harvesting tables, planting tables. where we're putting the racks, obviously we're the same in the commercial space. They're still there. Some of it's because of the neighbors. We had to move some things, but that's a whole other subject. But yeah, careful planning out. Not as important when you got 3,000, 3,500 square feet, 3,500 square feet to west with, but it's still important. Where are you going to put your hose? Where are you going to put your rack for harvesting, knives? Where are you going to put your gloves at? All that. Where are you going to put your seeds at? That stuff all comes in. And like Andy was saying, the workflow is the most important. When you're working in one area, you want to stay working in that area. You don't want to have to walk and go get something and come back, because that time adds up. And when you're harvesting as much as me and Andy and some others are, them steps add into time. And I'm sure you've messed with that with your flows as well, Andy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have things set up specifically to where you can really easily get to everything you need to get to on a very short distance. So our harvesting tables, for example, are kind of split, and then down the middle is an actual supply rack, and that's got
Mm.
gloves on both sides. It's got scales on both sides. It's got weights from when we plant on both sides. That way, it doesn't matter what table you're working on. You can easily get to everything you need to get to without crossing over somebody else. Potentially running into someone or having to walk around someone or potentially tripping over someone. So we have it set up to be very, very efficient for that reason. That's why I mean, we spend a ton of time long before we move into a space determining the layout that makes the most sense. And it's definitely worth the effort, because ultimately, if you end up maxing out the room that you're in, you need to know ahead of time, how can you get as much stuff in there as possible? And even though the space that we're getting ready to move into is going to be huge compared to what we actually need, we're already setting it up for success to where we can fill that whole space as efficiently as possible. So we're not going to waste our time. We go in there, we're doing it right from the very get-go. And then hopefully a year or two down the line, we've maxed that space out, then we'll be very happy that we did that.
Yes, for sure. And another thing, when you're going to a new space, no matter if it's your own home or if it's a commercial space, take a tape measure with you and actually measure the measurements. Don't use your feet.
Yeah.
Don't use guesses, because that will throw you off big time. And you think you can fit 12 racks here, and it comes out to you can only fit 8 racks. Well, then that changes. Well, did it work? Will that space work for you or not? So take a tape measure with you, measure everything: floor, ceiling, walls, where the doorways are, all that stuff, and write it down before you leave the space. When we was looking at commercial space, had a piece of paper, pen, and a tape measure with us. Them are the 3 things that we brought, and obviously your phone to take pictures so you can look back at that. But have that stuff and write out everything that's in there and measure it out, because every little inch can make a difference.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, absolutely.
So that is space and what to think about when you're moving spaces or you're looking to expand your business from where your space is currently, if that's in your own home or commercial space. So let's talk about equipment upgrades and maybe the essential things that you need. Do you want to go to automatic watering? Do you want to go to automatic tray filling machine? Do you want to go to an automatic harvester? Watering systems, obviously, is probably the thing that everybody would want to go to, because that's the thing that takes the most life. And what does it make sense for you to go there? How many racks do you need to have to get there to be able to do an automatic watering? I feel like we're there now, since it's just the 2 of us, and we are in that process of getting the trays that fit the racks to move to automatic watering. Obviously, we're in our 4th year of business now, and now it's time to start doing that as we're growing. And it's only 2.25 of us working this business. That's going to take an hour to hour and a half a day off the schedule. On Saturdays, we may not need to come in if automatic watering is working. So that can maybe help out, unless we have a farmer's market or something. So what kind of things are you looking for in the future of doing automated with equipment, Andy?
Probably the first thing for us would be to get a commercial dishwasher. Even though it's not really automated, it certainly will save a whole lot of time. In the long run, we'd love to get like a microgreens harvester of some kind, not the one with all the strings, that fly around, but an actual like legit,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, fed, system or whatever that goes in and
Mhm.
actually does the harvesting. Because we don't want to spend a huge amount of time cleaning off all those little ropes or whatever that go flying
Yep.
around. So it's just a little bit cleaner. And then we've looked at automated soil machines and things like that. They're not terrible. Cost wise, they're pretty decent, but it's still, for the amount of time it takes to actually fill a tray, it's not really, we haven't gotten to the point where I feel like we're ready to move that direction
Yeah.
just yet. I don't know that we'll ever automate watering. I've thought about it, but just the cost for the actual flood and drain trays is so insane. If there's a cheaper solution out there, we just got to look into it. But at some point, we'll probably mess around with it. But for right now, it makes it tough. obviously when you've got arugula, amaranth, bull's blood, peas, things that are widely different in what they need for
Yep.
water. That's what makes it hard. Unless you're going to set up an individual tray and that's all that ever has in it is amaranth, and this one only ever has peas, and you're making sure it's flooding it with the correct amount of water. But it can certainly be interesting to try and get that dialed in really, really well. That's mainly why we haven't dove into it yet, is because of that and just the overall cost. I mean, it would be probably $25,000 at least just to get the trays and the equipment. That's not even including the actual process of testing it and going through weeks and weeks and weeks of playing around with it. That's why we haven't bothered yet, but it would be cool at some point. But I mean, ultimately we can water the whole farm in less than an hour, 45 minutes to an hour for the most part. So it's not too bad. Or as I like to refer to it, about three tool songs.
Yeah, we're getting that's funny. That's tool songs. We're getting some of the trays. We're getting 40 trays at $25 a piece. We found a really good deal on them. So that's the reason why we're
Yeah, you
looking
sure
at it.
did.
So we're obviously the lettuce for when it's germinating. Since we're doing big lettuce, we're trying to get that an automated system. Doing the herbs and basils, we're trying to get that. We'll do that in an automated system. Obviously, the flowers are already even automated watering. The lettuce that's growing, not germinating, is already in automatic watering. So things like that are going, and then we'll start with peas and sunflowers and radishes, things that are hardy and can take it, and everything else. And then down the road, after we test and trial, like Andy was saying, always test and trial arugula. And see if it works out. If it doesn't, then that's just something you stay and you hand water. You just don't move it to that.
Yeah.
You grow an extra 4 trays so you can put in that whole system that you don't need that week. And you test it and make sure it's going to work, because you don't want all your arugula to get overwatered and it dies off on you. And now you ain't got no arugula to sell. That's not a good thing. I've been there, not from automatic watering, just from bad seeds from True Leaf. Now I got Green Harvest seeds. I don't have a problem. I'm getting 10 plus ounces out of them. So we want to keep doing that. So definitely the harvest machine that you talked about, not the green harvester that everybody uses. I don't want that thing. But the actual full machine that, it's got the big conveyor belt that you can push it through it and it's harvesting them all. That's one of the things we're looking at a grant for right now. If we get that, obviously, if we get that grant, we'll definitely get that machine, which will save me a ton of hours on Mondays. Our big harvest day. We're spending 18 hours combined with 2 people. So that's 36 hours in one day that we're harvesting. So if we could cut that down, that'd be amazing. So that'd be after the watering things, just because we got them so cheap. That would be something I'd look at. But that machine is very expensive. But if the government money could pay for it, I'll take it. Get some of our tax dollars back.
I think they're about $25,000 if I'm not mistaken, roughly.
Yeah.
That's, I think, a base model. So it's not
25
a cheap
to
thing.
30, 25 to 30,000. But but there's some good grant money out there. I ain't going to tell you guys what it is right now because I want to get it first. So, but when you're thinking about all this stuff, like we were just talking about a little bit here, you got to think about your return on investment. How much is it going to cost you? How much is it going to save you in labor? How long does it take you to get that money back? And when you're talking about machinery, are you going to get that money back before that machine dies or it needs repairs? And you got to put more money into it because it's a machine. It's going to die and thing. I think we talked about this in the past, Andy, on that soil filling machine of how much it would cost to get it back and everything else. So definitely.
And really your best way to calculate that is just man hours. How many man hours is it going to save you per week? If you were to pay somebody minimum wage or whatever, how much money is it actually going to save you? Where a harvesting machine, I mean, let's say you spent $30,000 on it on the worst case scenario. It's saving you 36 hours a week at minimum, right off the bat, right away. So, I mean, it's going to pay for itself pretty fast when you're doing the volume that you're doing. But obviously, if you've only got, 1 rack, 2 racks, something like that, it's going to take you years and years and years, to make up the money for something like that. So you really want to be at a point where it's like, okay, I've maxed out my ability to do all of this in one day. Now's the time, but it's very dependent on how big your farm is. And it's just a decision you'll realize eventually that you have to make one way or the other, whoever you are, whatever size you are, you'll get there. Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yes. Hopefully we're all getting there. So in the financial options that you can go to get this machine, it's going to cost a lot of money. Obviously, first thing you want to look at is your own money. If you don't have that, then grant money would be number 2, in my opinion, to go get.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at financing after that, going to the bank, going to a third-party institution, whatever, to get that financing. And then you got to equate that into your equation too, because now that's going to cost you more money because you got the financial charges that's going to be on there, or your interest charges are going to be on there. So definitely got to take all that into equation when you're buying new equipment. Even when you're buying trays, how many can you afford to get? Is it going to make sense? You're going to get your money back on them. If you get good quality trays like Bootstrap,
Yep.
they're going to make you money. They're cheap for how long they last, or you can go cheap and keep buying. So, got to make that decision in your equipment.
Yeah. I mean, bootstrap trays, I always say cry once, buy once, cry once, but they pay for themselves after the first grow. Let's say you buy a bottom tray and a top tray, you're out maybe $8, something like that. I mean, your very first planting is going to make that money back. And then every planting after that is free, quote unquote, as far as what the tray is going to cost you. So that's the kind of thing you want to put your money in intelligently, to where it's something that's going to last you for years and years and years. I mean, I can't even imagine how much money we've made off of each individual bootstrap tray that we've had for 4 years now. It's just insane to think. So yeah, buy good trays. Don't waste your money. I mean, believe me, we did the same thing. We started out and bought garbagey Amazon trays that were really flimsy, and we broke a bunch of them. And I was like, all right, screw this. It's time for some real trays. Yeah, it's the only way to go, man.
Yeah, it's the only way to go. Good quality trays. It's not Bootstrap. We obviously have a link in here, but there's a few others out there, but there's not many that are going to be good and strong and sturdy like a Bootstrap tray was going to be. So that's where I recommend going first. And I know Andy does as well. So get quality equipment. Sure.
The only thing I wish they did better was their blackout lids. That's the only thing I wish they made a little bit stronger.
Yeah,
they're a little flimsy. Love from those guys.
But I've had probably 6 months. I haven't had any of them the blackout domes break or anything. So I just can't stack anything on top of them. You're not stacking. That's for sure.
No.
For sure. It's a top and that's it. So it would be nice if they made like a 3-inch one where you could just stack on. You could get like 3 trays on top, kind of thing. It would be nice.
That'd be cool.
But
someday,
if you're listening, Bootstrap, that would be great.
That would be actually really cool.
Save you some space, as we all know.
Yeah, for real.
Key.
Yeah. Well, especially with how you and I do arugula, it'd be really nice to be able to stack 3 trays on top of each other and have it all in one shelf instead of 3 separate spaces being taken up. So
you could just leave it on a germination rack for that days and then move it over, kind of thing. You don't have to worry about it.
True.
Yeah,
it's a good idea. Nice. Hopefully they're listening.
somebody, if click up with Bootstrap, let them know. All right. Financial informations. Obviously, everything you spend, you gotta be a cost analysis. You gotta do that when you're expanding, even for your racks or anything like that. You gotta do that. You gotta plan out how much you're gonna spend and what you're gonna spend. I've always said we spent $500 to start this business. I've never put another dime of my own money into the business. It's all been return of stuff. Now we took 6 months of not taking a dime from the business either. We turned everything back into the business. And then we started taking a little bit of money. Then we started taking a little bit more. And so we got really where we could be able to just take money completely and just do this fully. So it doesn't take a big investment to get this business started. Now you can start with more and get a few more racks, get the right racks, get all that stuff, everything else. But it doesn't take a lot if you just are willing not to take any money from the business and put that in there. And I know Andy's pretty much done this probably on a larger scale than what we've done of turning the money back into the business.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it as best we can. I mean, there's definitely points where we've had to put extra money back in, especially when we moved into the space that we're in now, where there was a large expense up front. And we were only 6 racks in at that point when we decided to make that move, because we saw the growth was moving in a good direction. But it was because we made that choice. We didn't have to. We certainly could have stayed in our house for a little bit longer and, maybe had some racks on the top floor, racks on the bottom floor, and it would have been a total nightmare. But we knew what direction this was going. We saw the growth we were getting, so we decided to kind of pull the trigger on it and see how it went. But yeah, best bet as far as you can go, try and keep your own money in it. Once you get banks involved, then you've got interest involved, and you've got potentially people walking in and saying, oh, you didn't make 5 payments or whatever, we're going to come and take all your equipment, then you're completely screwed. So, your best bet as best you can, is try and fund it yourself. Or, there's a lot of grant options out there, and that's the kind of stuff you need to look for. I mean, and it's not just the big, like 100,000 $1,000+ grants. I mean, there's $5,000 grants, $2,000 grants, all kinds of stuff out there that are way easier to win.
Yeah.
It takes time. Obviously, you got to fill out the applications. But we've won a $5,000 grant 3 years in a row. And they actually upped it to $10,000 this year. So we're going to be applying
Nice.
for that here pretty soon. And that's a local grant, only available on my county and the county below me. And that's it.
Nice.
And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of farms, but they seem to fund it pretty well. So, look around, and your Department of Ag people can help you find those grant opportunities, get on their list. They mostly know about them. They'll send you emails and tell you about them. Finding the more national ones are a little bit more challenging. You got to kind of proactively seek those, but it's definitely worth looking into, because it's just free money. I mean, you've put money into taxes your whole entire life, so why not get back, some from the government and help fund your actual projects? So, and then that way you're not spending any money out of pocket. So yeah, definitely look into grants if you can, for sure. And there's a lot of stuff available for like women-owned businesses, any kind of minority-owned business. If you're a minority, then it's an easy way to win. I mean, you've got a lot better chances of actually getting grants. So definitely don't hesitate to apply. I mean, worst case, you don't win it, but you learn something from that experience just by going through the application process, getting all your information together. And the nice thing is, oftentimes you can just take that data and just copy and paste it into the next grant application,
Yeah.
once you feel good about it. So it's really not too bad overall. But yeah, it's a great way to help fund your projects.
Yeah. We at one point said we were going to do this business completely with no financial stuff, grants, loans, anything else. I'm still sticking to the loan thing. I'm not doing that. But the grant money that's out there right now is just too attractive, and a lot of it.
Yeah.
And if we get this big grant, like this is like $150,000 potential grant that we're looking at, would totally change the direction of our business. We can get all the equipment we need to fill this place. We can get all the automated equipment and everything else. So there are good grants out there, and this one is, geared towards, women-owned businesses, which this business is women-owned. Farmers under 10 years. So if you're a new farmer, it's under 10 years. So I would think most of us probably qualify for that, if not all of us that's on this call or on this talk at all. So that helps you as well. So there's many of them things you can stack up. I think there's like 10 of them that qualifies that. If you can stack up all of them, you're probably guaranteed to get that grant from them. But like Andy said, go after the $5,000 and $10,000. If somebody's going to come up and $85,000, you fill out a little bit of paperwork for that. So go out and do it.
Yeah.
And most people forget about it.
Definitely worth your time.
I'm sure there's probably only a handful of people that probably qualify or even went for the loan that you were trying, or the grant you were trying to get. So it makes it a lot easier to get the smaller ones.
Yep. Only downside is this year they put in the paperwork that if you've won in the past, you'll be less considered. And I'm like, come on, man.
Come on. I still need
the
money.
year when they finally double the amount that they're giving out is the year that I have less of a chance of winning.
Of course. Yeah, and some of them grants, I know there's a lot of organizations out there. They get the same grant every year. They reapply for that grant, and some of these organizations are getting $75,000, $100,000 grants every year into their business.
Yep.
Now you have to spend it right. Most of them you can't spend on yourself. You can't give yourself labor dollars and just pay yourself. You can't do that, but you can divert money, and pay yourself with other money, or whatever, So you just got to do it right. But grants are a good way to go. We're getting into them. We got to get this grant done in the next 10 days. So this big one. So if you're out there, I think it is a federal grant, but it was a federal grant that distributed money to the states. So there was like $7 million to each state or something like that they were giving out, and then up to $150,000 per participant. So there's a lot of money out there. So go get it. Use the money. So. All right. Return on investments. I think we covered that already pretty well on, doing your return on investment and making sure you get that set up and everything else. So, Andy, you got anything else?
The only other thing I would add, and we didn't really touch on this when we were talking about, getting into a new space, whether it's in your house, whether it's external, in a commercial space where you're building something on your property. I mean, kind of the key things to look for, when you're looking to actually move into a new space. Number one is HVAC. You got to have some kind of climate control, without a doubt. You have to be able to control that climate all year long, in the coldest of the coldest months and the hottest of the hottest months. You got to be able to keep it 70 to 75 degrees in there roughly as best you can. So that's definitely a key thing. If you plan on watering your plants or doing any kind of dishes in there, or having a dehumidifier in there, which is obviously pretty recommended, you're going to preferably want a floor drain unless you want to empty out the bucket in that dehumidifier like 10 times a day. Try and get a floor drain if you can. Then you can tie a sink into that. You can tie a dehumidifier into that, all that kind of stuff. And then obviously you need water. If you don't have water ran to whatever building it is, then you're not going to be able to do much because you have to be able to water your plants. Unless you want to carry a 5-gallon bucket back and forth 100 times, to water everything, it's just not worth it. So those are kind of some of the key things. I would say HVAC is probably number one.
Yeah.
Having water is definitely number two. And then number three would be if you can find a place with a floor drain, awesome. Because I'm spending money to put one in. I had to do it in the previous space that I'm in now and the new space I'm going into. So, and once a plumber pulls a jackhammer out of his, vehicle, you're already at over $1,000 at least. Yeah. Just to get it off the truck, he's probably charging you $250.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind as you're going through that process. It's not fun. It's not a cheap thing to have done, but I would say those are probably my top three key things for moving into a new space. You have any thoughts on that? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I totally agree with the big thing probably is the HVAC system. Definitely having that. The floor drains you can build in, everything else. But if you're getting a commercial space and trying to get an HVAC put up on top, talk about $1,000 to get something off of a truck. If they're coming out with a big crane, it's going to be thousands of dollars to pull that baby up off that crane, off that trailer and put it on the building, and then making sure the building has the structural ability to put something up like that and everything else. You got to probably get engineers involved and everything else. So get a building that already has one is huge.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to look for that. Like we took 6 months to find this place when we started trying to decide. So it takes time. I know Andy looked for his place for months as well. Maybe a year. I don't know. How long were you looking, Andy?
Yeah. We started looking soon after we moved into the space we're in now, knowing that it was going to take that long.
Years.
And so, I mean, our 2-year lease expires on March 1st. So it's been almost 2 years since we started finding the space that we're in now. And I mean, there's not much to choose from. That's what makes it tough. And I would add a fourth option. So you've got your HVAC, your floor drain, and your, just totally fell out of my head. Well, you guys remember what it was.
Plumbing.
The fourth one I would say
Water.
is plumbing. The fourth one is to have electric. Because I know you're like, oh, electric, everybody has electric, but it has to be enough to support what you plan on doing with that space. I mean, for example, like in the space we're in now, it's 400 amp service that's in the building already, but there's 2 electric HVAC systems that are chewing up a lot of that power. So even though we have 400 amps, which sounds great, we actually have to upgrade it to 800 amps in order to actually be able to cover if we fill out the whole entire space over the entire time we're in there, to add all these new dedicated circuits. So, that's a costly thing to have done, to have that put in. I think it's going to be about $11,000 just to have those extra, because they have to get in contact with the electric company. They have to run, wire about this big around, from the pole to the thing, which that wire is like probably, $50 a foot or something. It's all said and done. So yeah, it can get very expensive, but yeah, electric is a big thing too, just to think about way down the line, what can I set up? And you can get about 8 racks on a 20 amp dedicated circuit. So if you think of it from that aspect, whatever you have, if you plan on putting 40 racks in there, you're going to need 5 dedicated circuits. Just keep that in mind. So just make sure you have that availability on your electric too.
Yes. Most commercial space comes with a lot. Like Andy said, think about what the air conditioner is going to eat up, the HVAC system is going to eat up, when that's running and everything else. So it goes fast. You think you got a ton, but it goes fast. But yeah, them 4 things are definitely the things you're going to want to look at. Electric and HVAC is probably, I would say 1, 2, just because it's hard to get at HVAC and expensive. So if it's the electric, if it's already there, and HVAC is going to be expensive to put it in. The water, the floor drains, stuff like that, it's expensive, but it's nowhere near where you're going to pay for that stuff. So if they have them too, if they have them too, you can kind of look at moving in there and then make a determination if you're going to do that. But start looking now, even if you don't think you're going to move into a space. Realtors will they'll show you places for free. They don't charge anything.
Yeah.
You don't have to commit to anything. Don't charge anything. We were looking for 6 months with a realtor, and it took that long, but she eventually found a place for us, and it was the right one and everything else. So, but it's free. Go look, even if you don't think so.
Yep.
Go look. Start dreaming. When you started looking for a house, you probably started dreaming way before you thought you were going to move in a house. So, same thing. Go dream. Dreams is what set us apart from other species. So,
and if you find a good real estate, person to find these places for you, tell them everything you need.
Yeah.
Because if you just say, I need 5,000 square feet, they're going to show you a thousand warehouses that have no HVAC, no plumbing, barely any electric,
Yeah.
60-foot ceilings. So don't go in with that, mindset. Go in and just say, I need to have HVAC. I need to have plumbing, preferably a floor drain. It's not the end of the world if I don't. It's got to have at least, 400 amps of service, which most places probably will when it comes to commercial. And then say, I don't need ceilings that are 40 feet high. I need them like, 10 to 14 at the most, preferably even shorter, because obviously the higher it is, you're heating and air conditioning that space,
Yep.
which costs you a fortune. So, just some things to think about. But even if you're building like an external building on the side of your yard, I mean, don't build it. It'd be crazy tall to get an RV in there or something. You only need it to be 8-foot ceilings at the most,
Yeah.
if you can help it, because you don't need height unless you plan on climbing a ladder to water all your microgreens every single day. Just take advantage of that. But that's the things you can tell a real estate person, that
Yes.
they can actually go, with that in mind, looking for space for you. So yeah, just some things to keep in mind.
Yep. Definitely agree with all that. Give them the list ahead of time. Don't frustrate them and say, yeah, just any warehouse to do. And then you're like, no, this
Yeah.
doesn't have this. Then they're gonna be like, why did I look for all this for you? Don't bother me again. Go somebody else. Especially if you get an
Yeah.
experienced real estate agent dealing with a lot of people, they're not going to want to deal with you if you're not giving them a lot of information up front. So good
Yep.
information, Andy. Very good. Awesome, guys. We definitely covered everything we wanted to cover today. In the next episode, we are going to briefly introduce and focus on doing legal and regulation considerations, which I know doesn't sound like fun, but it is things that we need to go over and you need to know before you start doing things as a business, not necessarily just a microgreen grower, but as a business tailored more to the microgreens. So my producer's not on key here. So I want to thank all our harvest members for everybody been here, especially Mark, who's been here for 6 months as a harvest member. And we thank all of our harvest members for being there, and all our members in general and everything else. And if you are a member that is germination and above, or growing and above, you get all the videos that we release first before anybody else. And there's quite a few of them out there right now for you guys. So again, we thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you in the next one. And on to the Q&A.